Fourth Line Podcast, best of 2017 episode, part of the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATB Financial. I'm Carl. I had to think about that for a second, apparently. The always wonderful Joel, not with me right now, but he will be with us very briefly. What we're going to do today in our final episode of the year is go through some of our favorite clips from 2017. Some of clips that we know are your favorites because you told us. And so it was a big year for us at the show. Lots happened this year. And just going through the episodes, I'm like, man, that happened this year. That happened this year. Tons of great guests. Thank you to everyone who came on the bandwagon summer, trying to figure that out. We added the fifth line. Tiny Mike came on. We'll hear more from him shortly. There's a clip from that. We joined the Alberta Podcast Network and we fired up our Patreon. We'll be having a clip from our very first Patreon episode on this show as well. Before we get into the clips, as we mentioned, we are a member of the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATB Financial. ATB wants you to know, even as we're wrapping up 2017, that they are there for you. ATB.com/listens. Head over there and find out, heading into 2018, what they can do for you. So head over there and check that out. What we want to do now is start with a clip from our very first Patreon episode. What we did in this episode is two things. One of them being we did a deep dive into the life and career. More so the career. I don't really think we knew what was happening in Roberto Luongo's life, but we took a look at the life and times of one Roberto Luongo. Joel, this is our first Patreon episode. And we have two things that we want to do today.
Two things. That's more than what we normally do by two.
Yeah. First, this is a gentleman who, as a Canadian hockey fan, has been in my collective memory for about 2 decades now. Let's say 2 decades, right?
Sure.
He's currently 38 years old. And certainly was a part of the World Juniors. That's when I first found out about him. The World Junior Hockey Championships. He is a goaltender. And a 38-year-old goaltender really only leaves you one option.
Yeah.
So we're talking about Mr. Roberto Luongo. And what we wanted to do is, his career is not over. But his time playing in the NHL is nearing an end.
Yeah. It's heading there.
Yeah. And it's been quite the ride for one Roberto Luongo.
Yeah, it's been a long one, but it's been a very strange one. Don't you think? His career has just been all over the place. And it's just funny.
Yeah.
It's a funny career.
Yeah, he has won 2 gold medals. He has won 2 world championships. He has won a World Cup. And he has won a silver medal at the World Junior Hockey Championships.
But never a Stanley Cup.
Never a Stanley Cup. Never an outdoor game.
Never. He got benched for an outdoor game. It's like, that's the thing. That's like in his career. And I feel like he's almost, if he had never gotten traded to the Canucks, it just would have been such a, like, he would have been...
It would have just been like, a guy.
A guy. Like, a borderline Hall of Fame goalie just playing in Florida his whole career.
Yeah.
And it's just... So where do you want to start on this? Do you want to start with the trade?
Well, so we'll start with his draft, right?
Okay.
So he comes in the league and gets drafted
4th overall
by the New York Islanders.
Yeah.
And I think at that point in time, any time that you are drafted or play for a team with Mike Milbury as your general manager, things are going to go poorly for you.
Yeah. Well, and let's not forget that he was the highest goaltender ever.
At 4.
Obviously not anymore, but when he was drafted, no goalie had ever been picked higher than 5. And so there's an investment in a goalie. So like big expectations right away.
Yeah, they put all their eggs into that basket.
Yeah, and he did play. I never thought he played for the Islanders, but he did.
Yeah, he split time that first year between the A and the NHL.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. I'd always thought he had gotten traded before the Islanders, but...
And you know what? Like, decent numbers for a, 18-year-old goaltender.
Well, in 1999-2000, when goals were more aplenty, right?
But like,
I don't know.
Yeah, they were. But a .904 save percentage for Roberto Luongo that first year in 24 games for the Islanders. He went 7-14 though. Anytime you're picking 4th overall, you're probably not that good of a team. So.
Yeah. So, but like, here's the thing. Like you get drafted 4th overall, and then what was it? A year later, 2 years later, your team then picks a goalie 1st overall.
Yeah, they're like, we've done this once, and it worked great for us. Let's do it again.
So they pick the DiPietro. And they decide, we're going to go all in with DiPietro. And this is where his career gets so confusing. Because, you look, because DiPietro gets picked 1st overall, they're like, okay, well, obviously they care more about DiPietro. Because, that's a big, 1st overall, that is a super big risk. 4th, a goalie in the 1st round in general is a risk. Going 1st overall when you have other guys, because that was the Danny Heatley, and yeah, okay, Heater's career definitely just took a nosedive down, but he was really good for a while.
Yes. Also, I do want to correct. Luongo was 20 his first year, not 18. Anyways, continue.
And so it's you've got and then now you have these 2 goalies picked very high. And then we have, so obviously, Luongo's being criticized by Milbury. He's got this, so he gets traded. How would you feel being on the winning side, one of the most lopsided trades in history?
I'd feel great being on the winning side. You always want to be on the winning side of those trades.
Yeah, it's crazy. So this is where, Florida got Jokinen and Luongo for Parrish, and I forget who was the 4th guy. Remember?
Masha.
Yeah. So it's just Jokinen was great for the Panthers. It wasn't he's not Hall of Famer, not amazing, but he was really good. He was their I believe he was their captain for a while.
Yeah,
but then
he was a number 1 center for that team for multiple seasons.
But you get a franchise goalie, and they the Islanders chose the wrong one by a long shot.
Yeah, if you go back and you had said, okay, maybe let's keep Luongo and draft anyone other. And again, not a great draft in 2000, but you take Heatley, you take Gaborik, any of those guys, you're better off, right?
Yeah.
Man, that 2000 draft was terrible.
It was terrible. Justin Williams, Nicholas Cronall. These are some of your Brad Boys was in that draft.
Yeah.
It wasn't good. Brizgalov apparently was in that draft. So it wasn't a great.
Hossa, not Marion. Marcel.
Paul Martin. He's still around. Still kicking around.
Yeah.
King Henrik's brother. Taken. So it's not a good draft, but yet still, I remember Heatley being the no-brainer, the guy that you pick and he's not, and even you take Marian Gaborik and you're still happy about that. But here's the thing that I think is hilarious. DiPietro got that monster 15-year 4.5 or 4.15, whatever it was, for 15 years. You get Luongo the same day that you give it to DiPietro. You're standing here today thrilled with it.
Oh, 100%. And his contract's up.
and his
so you the books,
and his contract's up, and you're just like, oh man, we just paid a goalie $4 million
to win us
to
a
be
cup.
Great. So, yeah, like he's so, and like, and I guess this is where we're leading. I don't want to answer the question right now, but here's where we're leading. Is Roberto Luongo a Hall of Famer? That's the question I want to answer. I want us to answer by the end of this. But like, you would, regard if he's a Hall of Famer or not, you're thrilled with that long of a contract, and because like it's just such a weird experience. Because like he then went into Florida and just had a great career.
Yeah. So, 4th year in Florida, again, 24 years old, Vezina finalist.
Yeah.
Boom.
Right there. Is it weird that he's never won a Vezina?
It is. And again, you want to get into this later. You want to find this out. I think that's part of what's going to hold him back in that Hall of Fame debate is no Vezina, only one trip to the Cup, lost.
Can you blame him, though, for being, like, because Florida is just a terrible team all the time.
Truth.
They had one lucky year.
Also truth.
So, can you blame him for only going there? Like, and, man, he was in a terrible environment in Vancouver.
Yeah. Here's one thing that's, and again, kind of we look back on the circumstances of how things go in hindsight. Things look very interesting. If you were to have a goaltender who played in 47 games, 20 save percentage, that's high.
Yeah.
And he were to be a rookie, 47 games, 920 save percentage, as a rookie.
Yeah.
Does that guy win the Calder?
Yeah, I think so. That's really high.
Well, Roberto Luongo finished 9th that year.
Whoa. Who won Calder that year?
Another goalie. 25-year-old Russian goaltender, Evgeny Nabokov.
Okay.
Winning 32 games for the Sharks.
It's because of the wins, but his save percentage is probably probably lower, right?
Yep. It was a confusing year. Marty Turco, also a rookie that year.
Man, those are some weird names.
Yeah, right?
Think about that. Okay, so think about that. In the terms of Roberto Luongo, those two guys are rookies the same year that Luongo is. And goalies tend to be rookies older. Like, so they tend not to be rookies at 18.
Right. So Nabokov and Turco, both 25 that year.
Yeah. Now, Nabokov was like, because I believe Nabokov's Russian, he came over, right? So that, I went it a little bit. Because, like, that was also the Roman Czechmanic year, I believe. Like, those are the,
yeah.
Like, that guy came over and he was good with the Flyers for a couple of years.
Yeah. He was, that year, Vezina, Hasek, Czechmanic, Broder.
Yeah. So bizarre. So, but that's crazy that, like, so these are the guys that we're talking about that were rookies at the same time Luongo was, and none of those guys are around anymore.
Yeah. No one, like, literally, there are 2 other players on this list of rookies, and for a goaltender, and goaltenders obviously, they take, I don't know, maybe 3? Is Martin Havlat still playing?
No.
Okay.
No.
There's
not
2,
in the NHL, at least.
There's 2 on this list still. Marian Gaborik, Daniel Sedin. Those are the only 2 people who received Calder votes that year. Still in the NHL. With Roberto Luongo.
Yeah, so that, it's just amazing how long, and now I moved to BC, Vancouver area, he'd been in Vancouver for 4 years.
He moved there, 2010?
Yeah, I moved here 2010, and he had 3 years in Vancouver, 4 years in Vancouver while I was here, and man, did people not like him.
Yeah, all he did was play fantastic hockey and get treated like garbage.
Yeah, he had, and I believe this was the Cup year, 2010-11.
Yeah.
Was that the Stanley Cup year? Yeah, his goals against was 2.11, 9.228 save percentage, 38 wins. But just no one appreciated him. And I remember for years, like when Florida was talking originally trading him.
Yeah,
I remember as a Leafs fan wanting that guy.
Well, and again, we talk about being on the winning side of a lopsided trade. Trade number 1 with the Florida Panthers. Panthers won. This time, the Panthers lose. That trade was Todd Bertuzzi, Brian Allen, and Alex Auld for Luongo, Lucas Krejcik, and a 6th-round pick. So it's essentially Allen, Bertuzzi for Luongo.
And Bertuzzi was never the same.
Right. As much as Luongo was unliked piece in Vancouver, Bertuzzi after the Bertuzzi incident.
Yeah. So
a very, very different player.
And just never the same. So took him years before he kind of recovered back when he was kind of somewhat okay in Detroit, but it was just that was a terrible trade. And Vancouver, they should have been thrilled that they had one of the best goalies in the league. And just,
do you think if they never had a quality backup that he would have still been in Vancouver? If Alex Auld had been his backup goalie instead of Corey Schneider, is he still a Vancouver Canuck?
Well, but Schneider got traded before Luongo did.
Right, but it became I because there was someone else who could play in net.
It wasn't Luongo's problem though. Cause I never really got this sense, he wanted to play, but I don't think he ever got the sense that I'm gonna make this all about me. I think he was, I don't know. It was strange. It was a strange circumstance. That's the thing. The Canucks, they spent years trying to get back the Kirk McLean #1 goalie, right?
Yeah.
And then they finally get Luongo, and then all of a sudden they get Corey Schneider drops in their lap, and then Eddie Lack, who they thought dropped in. They're we have to get all of a sudden they get 2 guys that they think can replace Luongo, and yet Luongo's still playing forever.
Yeah.
So he played. So in the season that he got traded in 2013-14. The year before that, he only played 20 games for the Canucks. My guess is part of that was injury, but part of it wasn't.
He got concussed that year.
Right. But that was also the Schneider year, right?
That was the year that they kind of found out for sure that Corey Schneider was good enough.
And then they traded him for Bohart. It's just...
Which also, we have to remember, he became the captain as well during that stint.
Yeah, how many goalies have been captains?
I cannot think of another one to wear the C.
Yeah, I can't think of it. He had the C it wasn't allowed on his jersey, so he had it on his helmet. Yeah. And again, they did not like that here in Vancouver. They did not want their goalie to be the captain. And it was they were coming out of 2 fairly strong captains in Linden and Marcus Naslund. Yeah, so but I just feel like Luongo has been one of the most underappreciated players in the NHL, as long as in the era where I have followed the NHL.
Well, and very self-aware, not just because obviously he does not take himself seriously on Twitter. He's probably one of the greatest Twitter follows of athletes out there.
Yeah.
Athletes rarely say anything worth saying. He tweets about games. He makes reference to for the longest time, his profile picture was in reference to the fact that he missed the start of a playoff game due to being in the bathroom. So he's very self-aware, and to the point where, how often do you see, he was the captain of that team, how often do you see a player step down as the captain, which is what he did?
Yeah. So, and although technically, I guess technically, according to NHL rules, he was not the captain.
Right, because
goalies are not allowed. So goalies weren't allowed to be the captain. So Willie Mitchell was the on-ice captain, but essentially So there hasn't been a goalie captain since 1948, and it doesn't appear that there was anyone like in Luongo's situation. But
like a fake captain.
Yeah, like a fake captain. But I don't know. Like I think he turned it down because it was just too much. Like, do you think he stepped down because it was just causing too many problems, even though maybe not necessarily
Here's the quote from him. Serving as a captain in a Canadian city for a team with such passionate fans is a privilege and an experience I will always take pride in. I will continue to be a leader on this team and support my teammates the same way I always have, focusing on our ultimate goal.
Yeah.
He's a guy who was certainly aware of that, and I think, as aware of the pride that he takes in that, he was a guy who, by the end of his time in Vancouver, literally said, I wish I hadn't signed this contract. And again, the honesty you saw from him, right? No player is going to come out and say, I regret this. I don't want to be here. I wish I hadn't done this. This is terrible.
The only thing is that, do you remember a name, got a name of Gilmesh?
Yes. Kansas City Royals.
He retired because he couldn't handle the pressure of a contract he signed.
He signed, 5 years, 11 mil or something like that? Or like 555, I thought it was.
Yeah, it was something big.
Yeah.
And so he retired. Now, Luongo, as much as it hindered him, I don't think he was saying, I regret signing the money in term. I think he regretted signing with the team, is what he was saying.
It was the situation he regretted being in.
Yeah. So,
but definitely by the end of it, was willing to throw away anything left on that to get out of there.
Yeah.
If he could have chipped in his own money to make that trade happen, there was a number that would happen.
Yeah, it was interesting. Just in case you were wondering, Gilmesh signed 4 years at about 40 mil.
Yeah, so 10 mil a season.
In 2007. So, and he walked away from 12 million. The year that he was going to win the most, get the most, he walked away from. He retired.
So, Luongo makes the Cup Finals, has his big, the Tim Thomas, Roberto Luongo rivalry, them chirping back and forth, a couple big personalities there in that final, and then starts to go downhill from there. And even during that run, there was the goalie controversy, right? It wasn't 100% his job when they're in the finals. Because they pulled him, and again, the same way that right now we're talking about Ovechkin. Is he not able to win the cup? Is he a playoff choker? That became the Roberto Luongo conversation.
Yeah, and the thing is, it was so unfair, because he was not on a team that could, other than that one team that went to the finals, but the Canucks have never been a team that you're they're a cup contender. They're good, but they're never they've never been that team that are definitely, they make the playoffs, they could, but I feel like
they
Luongo...
were a perennial playoff team, and they should have been, but...
Yeah, and I think Luongo did as much as he needed to for that team to win. I never felt like he was the one that was causing them not to win.
Yeah, I would say there were certainly some playoff performances that left something to be gained, but even still, is really only just the 1 year. 2011, 2012, he had an .891 save percentage. Oh, and I guess the year before he had an .895. But most of his years in the playoffs, he has had a save percentage above .910. That is enough for you to win a Stanley Cup. That is enough for you to be that is a quality performance from any goaltender. That's good enough.
Well, and go watch some of the performances of the other players on the Canucks during those. It's not all about. It's not just about the goalie. And that's a big proponent of. Get a good enough goalie, but if you build a good team around him, you don't need to get the best goalie. You don't need Carey Price to win a Stanley Cup. Well, because you get a guy like Carey Price, you can't win a Stanley Cup because there's so much money. But I just think if they had built a better team around him, he's a good enough goalie to win it. He's I can't think of any guy where I'm just that team that goalie won the Stanley Cup for that team. It's like, no, it's like, yeah, you had goalies who played extremely well, but like, look, what was the year that Giguère won the Conn Smythe and didn't win?
Yeah, exactly.
And he played out of his mind, and yet his team was not good enough to win.
Okay, two things as we're getting into that year he played 20. That was the lockout year.
Oh, okay.
So that was the short season, but we start getting to where things start to fall apart, right? So they lose the Cup Finals to Boston. Vancouver falls apart as a city, the riots, etc.
Yeah.
Then you start to have the struggles of all kinds of things. Luongo was clearly upset when John Tortorella benched him in the outdoor game in favor of Corey Schneider. He was not okay with that, especially for a guy, the outdoor game for a lot of these players is something special, especially the first time you play in one. It's a special event, and he didn't get to. He had to watch from the bench. And I think that was for him of the start of the end. And then we started to see, at the time, Mike Gillis was the general manager, a lot of mismanagement of the whole situation from the Canucks side. I think for me, the one that stands out the most was trade deadline the year before they traded Corey Schneider. When, I believe it was the year before they traded Corey Schneider, you may remember differently, they pull him off the ice during practice. And anyone who gets pulled off the ice on trade deadline day, you assume is being dealt.
Yeah.
So they pull him off the ice, essentially to tell him, hey, we're not trading you.
Yeah.
So then he has to go talk to the media after and answer all those questions about, you're here. Why weren't you traded? Why are you still here? Do you want to be here? Do you like it here? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He needed to go at that point. It needed to be fixed. And they tried to fix it by trading for Schneider.
Yeah. Here's the thing. This is the defense of Roberto Luongo in the playoffs.
Also, it was Eddie Lack, not Luongo or Schneider in that other game. Anyways, continue.
Great, yeah. There was only one season, so like Schneider played in the playoffs 3 years with Luongo. His numbers were basically the same except for 1 year. But yet, so like Schneider, he played 3 games in 2011-12. He had a .960 save percentage, a 1.31 goals against. You'd think in 3 of those numbers you'd be 3-0.
Yeah, he should be.
He was 1-2.
Yeah, that's bad.
And then in the other 2 years where he played, his numbers were no better. They were actually they were either the same or worse than Luongo's in the games that he played. And so he didn't really play. The year of the Cup, he only started 1 game.
Mm-hmm.
That Cup Final. So he didn't really play. So it was such a bizarre situation. And then the other thing is that so we're coming down to the Schneider thing. Schneider gets traded. We're coming down to where Luongo's about to get traded. He almost does get traded, but not to the Panthers.
Right.
You remember this?
I do.
That they had a deal. They had a deal with Luongo to go to the Leafs. But then Vancouver, I believe, asked for an extra second-round pick, and the Leafs said no. Now, that doesn't... And there's... Luongo had not been approached yet, and apparently he would have said no, going to Toronto, because you don't want to be in a terrible hockey market. If you're upset about being in the Vancouver market, you don't want to play in Toronto.
Truth.
But I remember at the time being very happy. I wanted him for the longest time. I did not want him at the stage that they were going to be getting him.
Yeah, that's fair. And so he ends up in Florida, essentially just like a salary dump. Vancouver took part of his salary. Jacob Markstrom Sean Mathias came back. Markstrom was the longest next goaltender, future former goalie for the Florida Panthers for about 17 years. And now he's a great AHL goalie. Great? Bad?
Yeah, I don't know.
All right. Well, anyways, he's there. And I think, like, Luongo, you can tell he's played well down in Florida, went to the playoffs with them last year. And this year, you know, he's a 38-year-old goaltender. He's not going to be able to play all the games. But certainly, as well, he's the oldest goalie in the league. And, good on him. So, which brings us to the question, Hall of Fame, yay or nay?
I'm going to say yes.
I'm going to say no.
Interesting.
I want him to be, and I wish that he was, but I don't think he will.
I think it's going to come down to, because you have to remember, the people who decide on Hall of Fame, a little bit old school.
Comes down to trophies.
I think it's going to come down to wins. Because, okay, here is list of the top 5 guys with top 5 wins in NHL history.
All time.
Brodeur.
He's a goalie.
Patrick Waugh.
He's a great goalie.
Ed Balfour.
He's a good goalie.
And then here's where it starts to Joseph.
This list is weird.
This is your top.
This is the weirdest of lists.
That's your top 5. Now, Luongo
is 5. Yeah.
He's number 5. He is second on that list in goals against average.
Of those 5.
Of those 5. He is third on that list in games played. He is first on that list in save percentage.
Some would argue era for that, right?
Sure, but the on paper, without, and yes, you're going to get knocked for no cup. You're going to get knocked for no Vezina. But remember, Hockey Hall of Fame also takes into account your international, which he has about as good a record there as anyone. It's true.
Two Olympic gold. I know we list them off. World Championships, World Cups. World Junior.
So because you do have to include that, I think he's going to be a Hall of Famer.
Well, let us know. Patreoners, let us know what you think. Will Roberto Luongo be a Stanley Cup or a Hall of Famer? Probably won't be a Stanley Cup winner. We can agree that that's not going to happen. The next 2 clips that we want to go into they're from earlier this year. One is from episode 123, which came out on March the 20th. And on this week's episode, Joel's a little fired up. Things were grinding Joel's gears. So let's find out what exactly ground Joel's gears back in March. A vote for Party Pants is a vote against Brad Marchand.
Yeah. Who just got hit and is lying on the ice.
That's why I mentioned it.
And nobody likes him.
That's a fact. Well, so I would just the box, but
that's a cheap call. That's a bad call.
I haven't even seen what happened, so it was...
I'm assuming it was a bad call.
No, it wasn't. He quasi-speared him and then cross-checked him after the play was called, so.
It's a fair. That's such a dive. Whatever. You barely touched him. I hate the refs. You want to know what?
I do.
The refs are the worst. Did you see, please explain to me. We were at the point we were supposed to be talking about offside.
Yeah, we got distracted. This Leafs game being on is terrible for our continuity. Yeah, offside.
The refs don't even know what an offside is.
So here's my question.
They are the worst.
I had multiple Blackhawks fans coming at me on the Twitters yesterday claiming that the reason, and if this is the way that they interpret the rule, then it is mighty fine news to me. So let's say you're stick handling across the line.
Yeah.
And the puck is not actually on your stick while you are stick handling across the line.
Like you're passing it to another person?
No, like you're just, you have the puck, you're moving up the ice, you know, the puck is not always continuously on the blade of your stick.
Right.
But you are still in possession of said puck.
Sure.
That was what Blackhawks fans were using to justify the lack of call in the Colorado game yesterday. Because they said, well, the puck's not on his stick when Taves was offside.
So the reason that they called it not offsides in the Toronto game is because the guy who had the puck was apparently allowed to skate into the zone with the puck so the puck was supposedly, and if you're not able to see the video feed of this right now, I'm doing like the air quotes, rabbit fingers thing. Supposedly, it was still on the guy's stick, even though he was in the zone and the puck wasn't, so that's okay. Now, that seems odd to me. Like, I thought offside was just like black and white. The puck goes in first.
Apparently multiple different shades of gray on this one.
Well, here's the thing. Regardless of whether the interpretation of said rule was right, the guy still passed it before the puck went into the zone. Therefore, he should have been offside. I hope Chicago eats the karma of never winning a hockey game in the playoffs ever again.
Well, clearly they have the refs on their side, so...
You know what? I hope the Chicago Blackhawks end up with that guy from Calgary that has ruined the Calgary Flames and their ability to like get fair calls, because the guy that, I don't know, what's his face?
Weidman. It's his birthday today.
Happy birthday. You have a lot of penalties now.
Happy birthday. You're never getting a call ever. So,
man, I hate the refs are the worst. You know what really grinds my gears?
No, this should be, by the way, that should be the name of a segment on the show. What grinds Joel's gears?
This is like, have you ever watched a linesman try and drop a puck?
Yes, we've heard your linesman rant.
It's the worst. It's so annoying. And then they think they're hot stuff. Their names, the ref's name is like Jimmy Schlalvin, and he's like, I'm gonna drop a puck. Oh wait, no, I'm not. I'm gonna give you a warning. And they put up their stupid little finger like, warning 1, you. Warning 1, Kadri. Every time Kadri's in the face-off, he gets a warning. Every time. I hate refs.
I noticed.
This is
in other news of things Joel hates. Certain dirty players. I know there was a debatably dirty hit. I claimed it was dirty. You did not. Shoshnikov on Bergeron earlier this game.
Say that name again, please.
Shoshnikov.
Isn't it Shoshnikov?
Isn't that what I said?
No, you said Schnoshnikov.
I thought I said Shoshnikov.
I don't know. It sounds... Let's call him Sashi.
All right, old Shosh.
Old Sashi McShosherson.
So there was that dirty play, but
that was a clean hit. Get off.
It wasn't.
Step off, hater.
There was legitimate Leafs fans on Twitter saying that might be a game or two, which I didn't even go that far.
No, come on, legitimate Leafs fans. Yeah. Jonathan Bernier is saying that probably.
No, that would have been Mr. Steve Dangle said that.
Yeah, well, he's wrong. That guy's. Have you watched his videos? That guy's just all over the place.
Yeah. He's fun. Other people who did get a game or two, exactly 2 to be exact, Matthew Tkachuk
Good.
2-game suspension for his elbow on Drew Doughty. Do you think that was enough?
To the face. The face.
That is
no penalty. No penalty. You know what, refs?
You know what grinds Joel's gears?
Refs, you should watch when a guy is getting elbowed in the face and give a penalty for that to Brad Marchand light.
He's heavy Brad Marchand. He's like a bigger, slower, less goal scory Brad Marchand.
What is up with Brad Marchand? We're going to get to that. We need to talk about that. But is Matthew Tkachuk on the level of Andrew Shaw?
Oh, I don't think he's that bad yet, but he's well on his way.
I think he's there. Man, that guy's a dirty player. He slew foots everybody, probably.
I love just the blind statements. I think that's the difference, is that like Tkachuk certainly has done some dirty things, and he's always getting under the other team's skin in an Andrew Shaw-like way. But I haven't seen anything as bad as when what was that goalie he ran in the playoffs last year? Whatever Tkachuk. That was.
Tkachuk.
No, there's no goalie called Tkachuk.
Oh.
The one that Shaw ran someone in the playoffs last year.
Probably Holtby.
Don't think they played. Nope. Either way.
Right. Because Shaw was on
the Hawks.
So probably LA? I don't know.
Either way. I remember him running someone. It was just like the most blatant, ridiculous thing. So like I haven't seen something like that out of Tkachuk yet, and Shaw consistently does those things.
Have you watched any Flames games? I haven't.
I have.
Okay. Any Flames game that I've watched, Tkachuk has definitely done some shady maneuvers.
Like I would not say every game I have watched he's done something shady, but at least a quarter. Whereas every Habs game I've watched, I've been like, man, I freaking hate Andrew Shaw. Andrew
Shaw is, you know what grinds my gears?
No.
Andrew Shaw. I wonder why, like, do you think that guys like Andrew Shaw and Tkachuk and whatnot, like, do you think they would fight, like, go against each other, or do they only go against, like, innocent bystanders?
Oh, for sure, only the innocent bystanders. They're not going to hold their own against
that's ridiculous.
The heavyweights. Like, I would love to watch Chara have his way with Andrew Shaw. But it's never going to happen.
Because Chara won't be able to catch him.
Oh, you just do it after the whistle, like old Zaitsev did there.
Zaitsev did nothing.
Okay.
He touched Marchand, and Marchand dove into the boards.
Okay.
What are you watching?
I have the Leafs Bruins game on.
Yeah, but you didn't see it.
Okay.
So here's the thing. Okay, are we done with Tkachuk?
Yeah, he's dirty. 2 games.
Yeah.
I'm actually quite surprised the NHL gave him 2 games, so I'm glad he got that.
Well, this is problematic for it because now he's a repeat offender.
That's a fact.
So that goes against him. So
all right. So obviously Joel's gears were ground there. Jumping a little bit forward, a mere 2 months forward, we're in the Stanley Cup Final now. Pittsburgh, Nashville. Joel's got a bone to pick. So, without further ado, Pixie Dust. To the Fourth Line Podcast in partnership with Last Word on Sports. This is June the 10th, 2017, and with you today is myself, Carl, and the always wonderful Joel. Season's not over yet, Joel.
Don't even get me started. So I got so many bones to pick
this week?
Let's. Do you want to get one of the bones picked right off the start? Just get. Let's spread them out. Let's ease into it.
Oh my god, it's so dumb. Like, there's like what 6 days in between games right now. This is stupid. It's Saturday night. Stanley Cup Finals. They haven't played for 2 days, or however many stinking days. Why do we not have a game tonight?
And they're not even up against basketball because basketball was yesterday.
Oh my goodness! And that, like, Pittsburgh, please win tomorrow. Please win tomorrow. Because why have we all of a sudden, like, you have one night in between games and travel? Like, just why all of a sudden in the playoffs is like, you know what? We need 3 nights off.
Yeah, it's the finals. You want to have them spread out so that you can lose interest in them.
It's just mind-boggling how, like, talk about. I get it that Pittsburgh fans and Nashville fans won't lose momentum in this series, but, like, isn't the finals like you're trying to get everyone that likes hockey engaged?
Absolutely, yeah. The minor fan, you want them watching.
Yeah, you are losing interest. Like, I don't even care at this point. I'm just like, oh, please be over. Please be over. This is just, it's just so dumb. I cannot take another day of, like, the worst headlines coming out because the media has nothing to talk about because they're beating every story to death. Ugh. I'm ready. Like, you should be able to do a 7-game series, like, in a week and a half, not 8 weeks.
Like, it should take you 2 weeks because there should be, or what would it be? 13 days. That's what it should take.
At the most, but, like, what?
Yeah,
why can't we do back-to-backs? Like, why can't you do a back-to-back in the playoffs? I don't, like, who cares? Yeah, you're all tired. Like, do it. It doesn't really matter. Oh,
I can get behind that.
Like, I'm not saying, like, do it but, like, say, like, game 1 and 2, this is back-to-back.
3, 4 back-to-back, and then, like, actual, like, a travel day, not a travel vacation. Like a travel long weekend.
Like, do we know if Crosby, like, did a 1 or 2 day into Cancun and just relax a little bit? Fresh air.
Probably did. Yeah. It's that seems very Crosby to go have fun. That guy's all business. I don't know what he does for fun.
I don't think does he have fun? Can we confirm that Crosby has ever been happy? Like,
when he wins, that's the only time he cracks a smile.
Yeah, I don't know. Or we like, it's so discouraging when you're just like, so when was the last game? I don't even know. See, that's the thing. Like, it's been so long. Like, was it Wednesday? It was Wednesday. Thursday
there was a game.
So we're gonna have 2 nights. We're gonna have it like a Saturday night where it wasn't like where the game wasn't yesterday. We're gonna have a Saturday night without hockey in the finals when we could easily have a hockey game tonight.
Yeah, and then it's gonna, if it goes 7, we'll have a game 7 on a Wednesday. Everyone's favorite night of the week to watch a hockey game.
So, or we could have had, like, I don't know. This is dumb. Yeah. It's dumb. There's so many dumb things about this finals right now.
There is. If you, Joel, I know you know how, but if you agree or disagree with Joel, head over to our Twitter at Fourth Line Podcast, or our Facebook.com/The Fourth Line Podcast, and the website for all of our information, thefourthlinepodcast.com. That's where you can find us on the internet. But thank you for tuning into the show this week. Obviously, lots to talk about with, 3 games this week. Again, 1 week, 3 games. So we'll talk a bit about that. We'll see what else Joel has bones to pick about. And we'll get a little bit into the pending off season, because there's already a lot of rumors about some moves that are going to happen. So let's get into those. The Predators. I think last week we sat here and said that the season would be done by the time we come back this Saturday. It's not. And we also said, well, I said, you kind of disagreed. Well, not disagreed. Anyways, I'll just say what I was going to say. I'd mentioned a series is never over till you lose at home. And we both said the way the Pens are playing, it doesn't look like that matters. And then the Preds went and won both their games at home.
Yeah, they played well.
Yeah. And then the Pens went out and just destroyed them at home in Pittsburgh, that is, for Game 5. Game 6 tomorrow night. Does that still ring true? I'm hesitant to say that because we so adamantly sat here last week and said, it's not over, but it is over. And then they went out and played fantastic hockey. They managed to shut down the Pens. The fact that they held Malkin and Crosby shotless in Game 3, that is an impressive feat.
Then was that the game that they didn't have a shot in the second period? I think so. There was one of the games in Nashville, Pittsburgh didn't have a shot in the second period.
Yeah, and Nashville's just been out shooting them like crazy the whole series. So those who are shots-based analysts are like, well, Nashville's the better team.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm guessing at this point this series is going to go 7 because it doesn't look like it looks like a series that just the home team's going to win now. That's just Nashville's feeding off their fans or something. I don't know. I don't know why. I saw, I think it was Duthie that tweeted this, and he said, he's like, we're about to see a 7-game series in the Stanley Cup Finals and not have one good game.
Yeah. Just blowout after blowout.
It's not entertaining at all.
It's not entertaining till the end. You can safely tune into the first period and a half.
And then it's just over. Yeah, I guess, I don't know. Maybe the other reason why I'm so annoyed with how the schedule is, like, I've been either working or had ball or something on like nights of games, so I haven't really watched, except for the one night this past week, game 5, and I turned it off about 10 minutes in because I was like, well, this game's over, because it was like 3-0 already after the first period. I was like, well, I don't need to watch the rest of this.
If Pekka Rinne doesn't have to play the rest of the game, you don't have to watch the rest of the game.
Yeah, is not good. And so I'm not expecting, and I got to work tomorrow night, so I'm not watching that game, but I'm fully expecting it to be a terrible game. So,
as much as none of the games have been close, I've been enjoying them. Like, for the first chunk, because they are, fairly evenly matched teams. It's just, for whatever reason, Matt Murray cannot play well in Nashville, and Pekka Rinne cannot play well in Pittsburgh.
Is that it? I don't know. Like, and I think you're the only person that I know that has said they're enjoying this series. I don't know anyone. I don't know. I haven't seen anyone say that. Like,
I've enjoyed it. It hasn't been like, there have been series. What was it? The Kings Rangers series a few years back. I wanted no part of that. I don't think I watched more than 1 or 2 games of that series just because I was like, yeah, this is not entertaining hockey. But for me, this is appointment television still. Like, I want to watch it. For sure, I will, I've booked off tomorrow night. That's happening. Wednesday night, if it goes 7, I will be there.
I will. I could watch Game 7 if they have a game, but I will not be watching tomorrow night. I don't really get, but see, that's the thing. I'm not even sad that I'm not watching. Because normally I would be all over a Game 6 or 7 in a Stanley Cup Final, because you're like, oh yeah, obviously these teams are well matched, but these teams aren't well matched because neither of them, you can't have a game where both of them show up.
And I think if either goalie would show up, because Matt Murray, as much as I'm a big fan of what he can do, there's those games in Nashville, for sure. Game 3, that was on him.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though. I don't think Rene can show up the way that you need him to. Like, I think, he didn't play well in Nashville. His team played well. Like, they weren't getting any shots. Like, or Pittsburgh was playing badly. It wasn't that Rene showed up any more than he has. Like, he's not a very good goalie. It's becoming more and more clear. This is a really bad thing for him, is that he's like getting tons of national exposure. And now everyone's like, oh, this guy's not as good as the numbers show. This guy's not a good goalie.
Well, why does that matter for him? Like, that doesn't change who he is. It's not like it's going to mess up like a future contract thing for him. If you don't think it's sad that all of a sudden, like, you are watching the whole sport, fans, media, come to this public realization that you're not as good as they thought. Okay, when you put it like that, sure, yeah, that seems a little
sad.
Disappointing.
Yeah, like, I'm not saying it. Like, sure, you do need to get past these things, and you have to play well. It's like, but it's still a kind of like bit depressing in the sense, it's like, oh well. Because I always liked Pekka Rinne, and it's not very good. It's not been a good exposure for him. But that's okay, because I don't think he's going to win. I still think Pittsburgh's going to... Like, Pittsburgh doesn't look like they can lose at home, so...
No, and like you said, even the 5-1 Game 3, Pittsburgh got that 1-0 lead, and the goal on Rinne was not good. And he did not look comfortable until Nashville got probably a 2-goal lead in that game. That's when you were like, okay, now I just have to play myself. I need to play my style. Up next is a clip from back in the summer, an episode literally called The Dog Days of Summer. This was right after July 8th, this episode came out. This was right after free agency. The free agency frenzy happened, and we're just, buckling in for what's going to be a tough summer. And what we got to talking about is just the state of sports media, and things have changed since then. I believe since then we're both subscribers to The Athletic, and we've seen them grow. We've seen that change. And so looking forward into what's happening now, being able to look back on this last 6 months and see how the sports landscape has changed, even in 6 months, so much has happened. So we wanted to include this clip so that you could see and just also be able to think back and see how things have changed and how, as we move forward, what will happen this year in 2018. So much will happen, and we're not smart enough to know what that'll be, but someone probably is. And that's kind of, that's the news of the week. This is what's going to be happening throughout the summer. Don't worry. If you're like, man, like there's nothing. These guys are going to be having not a lot to talk about. We will. This is the podcast that brought you the which captain would win a Royal Rumble discussion.
Oh, we will have content. There will be stuff to do and stuff to talk about.
Absolutely. But a lot of people question that, because a lot of things shut down. A lot of people shut down. A lot of blogs, podcasts shut down come the hockey off season, and stop producing content. And it kind of, this whole conversation that obviously Joel and I are well aware of how often we produce content, of what we do, and providing the best content to you, our listeners. That is our goal, to produce something we enjoy, something we can be proud of, and something that you will enjoy to listen to. And there's been kind of a substantial shift in probably the last 5 years in the way that media functions in sports. Would you say 5 years, 10 years?
Sure, something like that.
And it's kind of been a shift away from the mainstream media. We are seeing, almost weekly now, certainly monthly, one hockey writer who works for a mainstream publication being laid off, unfortunately. It's continuing to go that way. We saw ESPN essentially clear house earlier this year. Well, not just hockey. Hockey definitely took a hit. Baseball writers, hockey writers, football writers, all of these guys, on-air personalities being laid off by mainstream places like ESPN. As people start to, oddly enough, I, halfway through the show, got a phone call from my cable provider asking me if I would like to add more things. And I tell them every time they call me, the only reason I still have cable is so that I can watch live sports.
Yeah.
And you are starting to have a lot more people removing that. And they say, well, we can't offer you a deal on that because that's the expensive part of these cable packages is sports.
Yeah. Yeah. It is, and like streaming services are like making it, I can't tell you the last time I've watched a baseball game on cable.
So you're not, all those commercials that people are paying for, you're handing Major League Baseball, what, $120 for the year?
Yep. And there's a baseball game on every night in my house, whether I'm sitting down and actually watching it or while it's on while I'm doing whatever. But every night in my house, there's a baseball game on.
And even still, so it's not even the All-Star break. We're about halfway through the baseball year. I waited, didn't want to pay the $120 for the full season. I just paid $20 for half a season. Yeah. So these are the kind of streaming deals that places are starting to offer. And we'll start to see more of this in hockey because they're actually using the same software, the same technology that Major League Baseball uses, has been moved into hockey, has been used also by the WWE. So this is technology that's being spread throughout, and we'll start to see it more and more and more. Hockey or basketball has the same deal. Football in Canada, much more difficult to get a streaming service.
If I could figure out a way to get, like, if I could pay less for football in Canada, we'd get rid of our cable, like right now.
That is quite possibly the case for me as well, which maybe I should just cancel it during football off season, pay for the hockey, pay for the baseball, and then I'm done. I'm good.
Yeah, because my wife only watches Netflix. Like, is this just sports media or is it just media in general too? Like, everything, like how we consume media is completely changed from 10 years ago.
Well, and it certainly is part of that, but cause the local cable news, I don't see it. And maybe it's cause I pay attention to the sports media. I know newspapers are starting to have less and less, but like, it doesn't seem like the CBC news and the CTV news, like they lay people off because no one's watching them. So maybe it is the same. Maybe it's just across all media. There's this shift that's happening.
Yeah. Like, and I know we've talked about this and I guess we've talked about like The Athletic in the past, but I'm okay with paying for good content. Like, if that's what it takes, like, obviously, like, I can't pay whatever for good content, but like, the only place that I'm reading stuff right now is The Athletic for the most part.
And that's what you paid I don't know if you paid the full price for that or you got it on one of their deals, but regular price, $50 a year for all their content across all of their city-based areas, right? So they've got Chicago, Detroit, Toronto. I don't know. I forget what the other ones are.
I only read Toronto stuff.
And you only read the Toronto stuff, most likely. There might be an article for Detroit that you could want, but you're there for the Toronto stuff. You're there for, primarily the Leafs.
Leafs, Raptors. That's where they actually have quite a good bunch of Raptors writers.
Because they've got Eric Green over there, right?
Yeah. And so like, it's interesting I find it interesting how this is all shaping. Like, I don't, like, when was the last time you've gone to ESPN or TSN for your content? Like, do you go to those websites anymore? Do you go and watch their videos? Or do you basically just catch it on Twitter and watch games? Or, I don't know.
So here's what the last time I was on TSN was about 5 minutes ago. I was on tsn.ca looking at the list of recent transactions. And however, the list of recent transactions was wildly insufficient for what I was needing. I wanted a list of all the trades, all the money, things that were happening, and there wasn't enough information there for me to move on. So I then left there and went over to Cap Friendly, where they had the time-based list of all free agent signings, and I could see if entry-level deal, a standard deal, the value of the deal total, and the cap hit of it. That's what I wanted. That's what it gave me. And so this is the thing, is these other sites are providing it. I don't have to go there. I was formerly, you talk about paying for content, formerly, and both of us were actually, formerly subscribers to ESPN Insider. And they continually cut and hacked away all the content that we got there. Until it was just didn't make sense for us. I think I lasted 1 year further than you did.
Yeah.
It didn't make sense for us to stick around and be paying for that anymore.
And I only ever stuck around because they kept on, like, I barely paid for it.
I think it was $15 for the year or something like that.
Yeah, it was really cheap by the time, because I tried to cancel every year. And then eventually I just straight up canceled because I didn't use it at all, and so it just wasn't worth it. But yeah, like because like we're in this place where you pay, like more and more places are paying for pay for what you get. You're like even like I don't know, like just regular news places are asking you to pay for their content more and more. You get 10 free articles or 5 free articles, and then you have to pay after this month, or places like The Athletic that, and Athletic offers lots of free content after so many days. Like you can go and read it, but not all of it. But it is, I don't know. I find myself less and less impressed with and following mainstream media, and more like the guys over at the Leafs Nation. They're putting out better content than any mainstream media about Leaf stuff.
Right. The best content being put out there right now for the Leafs, we say, is coming from Leafs Nation and is coming from The Athletic.
Yeah, those are the two. I don't know which of those two would be top, but those are the two best. Like, it's not TSN.
Well, right.
It's not
and
Sportsnet.
You have TSN putting out their whole collection of Leafs content. They've got Leafs Lunch that's out there. They've got that podcast, and it has a number of listeners. What is it? You know, you're comparing them. Is it just quality? Is what's the difference between the off brand? Because I would say by this now, you know, the Nation Network having, you know, Wings Nation, Oilers Nation, Leafs Nation, lots of these across the country, puts out a ton of content, has great writers there. What's the difference between what you get there and what you're getting from The Score, Sportsnet, TSN, from ESPN down in the States?
Is The Score still a thing?
Yeah.
I didn't realize. I don't even think I have The Score anymore.
Well, it's not a channel. It's just a website now.
Oh, okay. It's totally quality based. It's totally quality based. Like, I just don't find. Well, actually, it probably includes two things. It's quality based and entertainment based. The guys over at Leafs Nation are entertaining. Like, they're fun. They enjoy what they do. TSN gives us Jeff O'Neill, Jamie McLennan, and Patrick O'Sullivan. So, like, guys that play in the NHL but aren't really great at what they do. Like, they're okay. They're not terrible. They're not as bad as some guys out there. Nick Kiprios. But I don't know. It's totally quality based, and I used to listen to Leafs Lunch because Leafs Lunch was actually Leafs breakfast for me. But it was just kind of like whatever.
It was content for the sake of content. It wasn't because it was good.
Yeah. I would say, like, I listen to the Vancouver sports radio. But they're not, I guess Leafs Lunch wouldn't be considered national media, but it kind of is. Like, it's still fairly national media, where, like, the local TSN radio station is much more casual, easygoing. They have fun. It's your regular sports talk. I still listen to Dan Patrick.
Yeah, and that's a guy who has fun with what he does. He doesn't take himself too seriously and doesn't flies in the face of the literal rules of the fact that he was barred from having ESPN personalities on the show. And he was like, yeah, let's just go get some anyways.
So I just don't know I don't know where we're going, but it's like we're definitely like we're obviously more internet based, but I think, and this is surprising considering where the age of like information and technology is becoming more and more accessible. I think we're starting to enter a place where good sports content is actually becoming less and less available for free.
I'm with you. Yeah. You're going to start to see.
Yeah.
The Athletic is, especially for hockey, because it's so popular in Toronto, because they have such a great collection there. I do think that you're going to start to see a shift in where and how we consume our media. And it's started, but I feel like it feels on the cusp for me. Like it feels like as we see a slew of layoffs, ESPN, even as you know, we're in Canada, ESPN has a huge impact on how we consume our media because they pay so many writers to produce free content. Well, when ESPN is losing money in the way that they are and they're laying off those writers, that's less free content for us. So for me, I look at them, yeah, there's going to be things that we lose because of this. There's going to be problems. And maybe not problems. Like, these are people who do this for a living. Joel and I do not do this for a living. When you support us on Patreon, we greatly appreciate it. And it is helping us to grow this show, improve this show, support this show so that we can continue to do that. I don't consider what we do on our Patreon. If it became that one day, that is great. But this is not our career. These are guys with The Athletic. That's what they do day in and day out. And you're starting to see this shift where that's how guys are providing for themselves is through these subscription-based services. And it's going to change for sure. It's going to be different where you're going to be having these giant networks and you're paying them $50 a year. And I'm okay with that. We do that. You know, we have an Athletic subscription that, you know, Joel's able to read whatever he wants with his stuff. We've had ESPN Insider. If there is another service that we feel is necessary, actually, I saw, maybe not. I won't say that because I don't know if that's true. But like, there's other sites out there. If you're providing content that is good and entertaining and necessary, we will pay for it because we see value in that and it's entertaining for us. And I think you're going to start seeing that shift where don't be upset if someone says, we want you to pay for what I'm producing. Be upset if they're asking you to pay for something and it's terrible. And just don't for it.
Yeah, I think that's the bigger thing is that if you don't, like, and that's where it comes down. Like, I'm okay with paying for what, like, I'm okay paying Major League Baseball, however, $120 for the year, because I actually want that. And it's a good product and it gets me what I want. And so like, if media starts to go down that way, like, I'm okay with that as long as I'm able to pay for what I want. And
right. You went out and handed the National Hockey League and their subscription service $200 after Austin Matthews scored 4 goals in his first game ever.
Exactly. And I was very happy about that. I wasn't sad about that at all. So, but I don't know. There is a big difference between, like, there's obviously a big difference between actually just watching the sports and then watching and the content and analysis of it. But I'm interested to see where it goes and where we head as sports fans and sports media and just where it goes. But it's way different. It's way different than 10 years ago. and just kind of
10 years ago, you would turn on the internet and you would be like, oh, I want to read stuff. I would go to TSN, I'd go to Sportsnet, I'd go to ESPN, and I wouldn't really follow a blog in any way. And now what started as the blogs, Nation Network, Athletic, these are guys who are now producing the best content out there for that. And, we use those because especially, some of the teams that we cover, but like there's, Mile High Sports does a great job covering the Colorado Avalanche. All of these, you have the SB Nation, out of the States. You have, all these blogging networks that there are some fantastic writers on there. Last Word on Sports, a site that we're a part of, they have some great writing on these sites. And 10 years ago, I would never have gone to them. I would never have, podcasting has blown up, whereas almost everyone has a podcast. This surprise you, Joel. We're not the only ones out there.
Yeah. What? I thought we were literally the only hockey podcast.
No, that's not. People aren't listening to us because we're the only show. That's why we very much value you listening right now, because there are so many people out there producing this content, and it's shifting to podcasting, to blogging, away from this mainstream media. I'm very interested to see where it goes. It gives a lot. You're going to start to see much better material because it's a platforms being made for people that weren't there before.
Yeah. So, well, it'll be, it's good. I like where we're going though. I like the direction that it's heading. Cause like I'm totally okay with not having to worry about only going to mediocre mainstream media outlets to get my content and not really enjoy it that much.
For sure. All right, this is our last clip. This is from the aforementioned Fifth Line podcast. And unfortunately, Joel was not able to join us for this episode. I don't remember why, but he wasn't. And so Tiny Mike and I were left to our own devices. And what we did is we jumped headfirst into the song Summer Girls by the Light Funky Ones. This was a ton of fun to do, and just wanted to bring that to you right now. We're talking about, if you haven't picked it up yet, we were talking about everyone's favorite song about the summer. Comes back from, early 2000s. Summer Girls by the Light Funky Ones, otherwise known as LFO. One of the greatest songs of our generation.
One of the greatest songs, but also one of the, just most spectacular band spellings that I've ever seen. So, I mean, a lot of people remember the Light Funky Ones as LFO.
Yeah.
But few people actually realize that light is spelled Lyte and funky is spelled Funki. I mean, that's just pioneering. That's just wordsmithing that I haven't seen this side of William Faulkner just about ever. So, I mean, we're really dealing with a transcendental talent here.
Well, and this was peak boy band time, right? We've got LFO coming after the wave started by the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. O-Town, another favorite.
Oh, the British boy band Five for When the Lights Go Out.
Yeah. Even one that I was listening to, a little Lone Star, the country boy band.
Baby, I'm amazed.
Yeah. Well, when you're walking in Memphis like that, come on. It's hard not to be. So, at this time, we have this band, the Light Funky Ones, with the song Summer Girls. And what's amazing was just what you could get away with at this time of music. Summer Girls, so catchy. Unbelievably catchy.
Now, Carl, so in full transparency, sorry to the listening audience to peel back the curtain a little bit. When we were discussing this topic earlier in the week to figure out what we wanted to talk about, I actually took a little bit of offense. When you're like, hey, the lyrics to Summer Girls don't necessarily always add up to 100% sensible English language. I was like, oh, how dare you, sir? First of all, how dare you?
Right.
I love this song, and every word makes sense. But then, you kind of put me to the test, and you had me actually look at the lyrics. And oh my goodness, Carl. I don't know what I was thinking when I was 17 years old, but there are barely 3 words in a row in this entire song that make any lick of sense at all.
Well, they saved them all for the chorus. Like, the chorus makes a lot of sense. So let's start there. That's where the song starts. New Kids on the Block had a bunch of hits.
Mm-hmm. That's a true statement. They had at least 3.
That is
at least.
Yeah. Chinese food makes me sick.
Okay, is that racist to say, Carl? That's what I want to know.
No, I think, because you can, I don't know, if you have too much of it, or maybe, I don't know. I don't think so.
Because they're not saying, bad Chinese food. They're just saying all Chinese food. And it's hard for me to imagine, chow mein and fried rice really do anything bad to your stomach.
Yeah, besides picking the wrong stuff. I don't know, a lot of, deep fried squid might be bad for your stomach. I think if that's all your diet, or all ginger beef all the time, don't do that. But
debatable.
I don't know. I know some people who would say Mexican food does not agree with me.
I do not want to know those people.
I'm not friends with them anymore. So this is where the song starts to fall apart immediately. We have the coherent part, and we're talking, summer girls. We're talking about girls that you like in the summer. So you're putting on some New Kids on the Block. Get the girls all coming over. They're like, oh man, who's playing New Kids? They come over and you're like, don't bring that Chinese food over here.
Mm-mm.
We do not want that up in here.
No lo mein up in this house.
But he does think it's fly when girls stop by for the summer. And then, Zoe shows up in her Abercrombie and Fitch, and Mike's like, dang, girl.
Mm-mm.
Looking good.
Look at those cargo shorts, girl.
That crop top tee.
On me or on Zoe?
Both. You guys you wear the same size clothes. You share, right?
We share the same garments, yes.
So what's normal size on her is a crop top on you. It's unfortunate. I mean, really when she wears yours, it's baggy sweaters.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, certainly then he professes his affection. He'd take her if he had one wish, but she's been gone since that. So this is a throwback song.
Mm.
She's been gone since that summer. So way back when New Kids were a thing, this girl showed up wearing Abercrombie and Fitch. Presumably Chinese food was around for some reason at that point.
Wasn't that good?
Yeah, terrible Chinese food, and now she's gone. And that's all he can think about.
Now, I gotta ask you, so you just mentioned, so the girl is wearing Abercrombie and Fitch, but also New Kids on the Block is popular. These timelines don't necessarily seem to add up, Carl. So are we talking about either a time-traveling summer girl who got her Abercrombie and Fitch on and then headed back in time to 1991? Or is it possible that the light funky ones were still listening to New Kids on the Block in the late 90s?
Well, and, that might explain the Chinese food, because if the Chinese food was from when New Kids on the Block were popular, and then lasted until Abercrombie was popular, yeah, that would make your stomach a little queasy.
That would be one of the top 3 grossest things that I've ever consumed.
Exactly. Yeah, so I think that's part of their problem is time traveling Chinese. Chinese food is notorious for not withstanding the test of time travel. It just doesn't work through the particle accelerator. So just don't do it.
It's something that every single time traveler knows. Carl, every single last one knows that you do not bring Mongolian beef into the time travel machine.
Exactly. And it gets everywhere. It's sticky. Sweet and sour pork does not work.
Oh, there's ponzu everywhere.
All right. So this is when the song, if it wasn't already falling apart already, this is where it just collapses upon itself. So typically, it starts off hip hop marmalade, spick and span, met you one summer and it all began. So that from this, they're looking back to this summer and they're rhyming. They're going through the rhyming pattern. So span began. Let's do this. We've got the premise, and it's So you're the best.
But it doesn't get any weirder than that, does it? That's pretty out there. So that's the far reaches, and we're gonna come back towards the middle of normal, right?
Hip hop marmalade, spick and span. Is it the weird? No, it's actually not. So, this is where we're going from here. He starts to profess his affection for the girl. You're the best girl that I ever did see. The great Larry Bird jersey 33.
What does that mean?
I think every girl really wants to be compared to the jersey of their favorite athlete. And I checked it. Because when we were talking about this, I was like, you know what? Let's try this out. So I picked one of my favorite athletes, and I picked one that has the best rhyming. So I texted my wife and I said, Natasha, when I see you, it gives me the shivers. All I can think about is how great is Phillip Rivers. Didn't work. Didn't work at all. I don't know what's happening.
Romance is dead.
Did you try a similar move with Zoe?
I did. But I kind of bungled the whole thing, Carl. I'm not going to lie to you. And as it turns out, it's surprisingly difficult to form any kind of romantic innuendo that rhymes with the name Zaza Pachulia.
Well, here's what's great. Rhyming, not always necessary, even when that's what you've built it on. So this, rhyming it essentially just for that. But here's where you mentioned, does it get weirder? When you take a sip, you buzz like a hornet. Billy Shakespeare wrote a whole bunch of sonnets.
That doesn't rhyme.
Yeah. This song immediately loses all credibility for me. If they did not already lose it by trying to romantically link Larry Bird, who might be the least romantic athlete of all time.
Whoa, he's like at least the 14th most desirable man in his mid-50s from French Lick, Indiana. At least.
Yeah, exactly. No. Finding, and again, Shakespeare, lots of girls like that. Lots of girls, it works for them. That's literally, I think, the only thing they're like, man, Shakespeare works with girls. Let's do that.
Yeah, well, you gotta bust out the big guns after you tell a girl that she buzzes like a hornet, which could mean that she just gets extremely territorial and just starts biting people if you get too close to her home.
Yeah, exactly. And you have to leave. Like, get some ice on there, leave that vicinity. It doesn't work. Then we go down, and I think at this time, let's skip down this verse a little bit. Because what really starts making me, not at all interested, and it's, again, the timeliness. This song did not age well for this one reason. Macaulay Culkin wasn't home alone is one line where, you've seen pictures of what Macaulay Culkin looks like now, right?
Oh my goodness. He looks like some sort of cross between Skeletor and the last remaining groupie of Def Leppard.
Yeah. And so when I picture Macaulay Culkin, I don't picture him from Home Alone. I picture modern day Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah.
Which he was, if he's Home Alone, just leave him there.
Talking about people who poop on the sidewalks.
Yeah. So now, when I met you, I said my name was Rich. Is there anyone in the Light Funky Ones actually named Rich?
There actually is. As much as I wish that that was a complete makeup, the main auteur of their songs was a gentleman named Rich Cronin. So he's one of three members of the Light Funky Ones, along with Devin Lima, who was born Harold. So please, let's refer to him as Harold, and Brad Fischetti.
Okay, so do you think, again, we know their propensity for rhymes. Do you think that Richard only chose this song to be about a girl named Abercrombie and Fitch because it is the only clothing style he could think of that rhymed with his name?
Carl, I got to admit, that does sound completely like a move that a dick would make.
This is no longer time travel. It's just laziness.
Absolutely. It's just sheer narcissism at this point.
I think it goes on from there, continues on. At one point, they talk about how he likes Kevin Bacon and also hates Footloose. I don't understand how that doesn't compute.
I mean, it's entirely possible that he's just a ginormous fan of the movie Hollow Man, but we don't know that. You got to let the audience know these sort of things so we can have context, Rich. Come on. I mean, Cherry Pants Coked, Crushed Rocks Till I Boogie. What?
Are we talking which, Pop Rocks or narcotics rocks?
I don't know, but I'm still even confused by Cherry Pants Coke.
I believe it is actually Cherry Pez.
I'm not sure. Google Play Music has Cherry Pants.
Okay, mine has Cherry Pez.
Do either one of those make sense, though?
At least like candy, a beverage. But
are you putting Cherry Pez in the Coke? Is that a thing?
Like Mentos and Coke?
Is that technically drugs at that point?
That might lead to Rockstar Boogie, yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, so this song, he loved New Edition, but hates Kevin Bacon. Like I'm not against New Edition, but come on. His affections are all over the map.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And also, same verse, 2 separate mentions of Cherry and Coke, but in different contexts.
Just completely unacceptable.
So, Summer Girls is a legend of a song. Especially the more you spend time with the lyrics. So next time you're jamming to Summer Girls, pause. Okay, after I finish this sentence, pause. Because if you pause, then you won't know what you should do. When I say pause, turn on Summer Girls, and come back in about 4 minutes and 10 seconds. So, pause. There we go. That is some of our favorite clips, some of your favorite clips, hopefully, from 2017. 2018 promises to be a great year. We've got some new things planned. We're going to be kicking those off in our first episode, which will be coming out in a week's time, as it always does. So we'll be putting that out for you. As well, we'll be, continuing our Patreon episodes. So thank you to everyone who supports us over there. And who knows what's going to happen. That's the great thing, is that we cannot decide what's going to happen. We let the world of hockey decide for us. So thank you guys very much. The show would not obviously happen if no one listened to it. So most importantly, thank you to you guys. Thank you to Joel, Tiny, everyone who came on the show. Thank you to everyone who writes over at the website. I'll probably forget someone. So just thank you. You guys know who you are. And everyone who goes and reads it, you know who you are. So thanks to making this 2017 a great year. Tiny has a message for all of you that he put into our Patreon episode, and we said, Tiny, this doesn't belong here. So without further ado.
Carl, a lot of people call me a lot of things, but one thing I ask you to not call me, don't call me a guru. Don't call me a guru. It's a monthly podcast all about social media strategy from the point of view of 2 social media strategists, Tyler Jack Butler and Linda Huang. I know it's a Patreon episode, but don't call me a guru on the Alberta Podcast Network.
You can find us over at thefourthlinepodcast.com, at fourthlinepodcast on Twitter, mail at thefourthlinepodcast.com if you really want to get a hold of us. Thank you guys very much again. And until 2018,
Boom City.